This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana makes car selling fast and easy from start to finish. Enter your license plate or VIN and get a real offer in seconds, down to the penny. If you accept, Carvana will come pick up your car from your driveway. Or you can drop it off at one of our car vending machines. Either way, you get paid instantly. It's fast, transparent, and 100% online. Car selling that saves your time. That's Carvana.
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Welcome to episode 69, a special episode of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. This is Stephen Rothberg. I am the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site, and I am joined here today by three of my favorite people. First one needs no introduction, but I will let her introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeanette Leeds, HR Tech Entrepreneur, and we are here for a very special episode with both John and Heather, who have an incredible background in the topic at hand, which is around, does the employer have a liability for screening? Not employer, but actually a vendor, the tech vendors, which is a big hot topic. And given Heather's background in all of this from a legal standpoint, and John, who is a huge expert in AI and recruiting, and I'm like glossing over, we could spend like 15 minutes going over both of their backgrounds. We're so lucky to have both of them here today to talk about this topic. So welcome.
Nice to be here. It's nice to see you guys. Who picked the music for the beginning of the show?
That music is AI generated. And I wake up occasionally with cold sweats with that music going through my head.
I wanted to dance, but I couldn't quite. It was weird.
Yeah. Well, we want everyone to get into the groove for the special episode.
Yeah. Do you want to?
So with that first question, I always like to start off with let's get the basics covered off, because everyone has different backgrounds. So when you think about an ATS screening candidates, when you think about this, what do all ATSs nowadays have this ability to screen applicants? Are some using this functionality, or some organizations not? Maybe we could just sort of go, and John, you could walk us through basics. How are ATSs being used today on the screening side?
So it's an interesting thing, and I think it's important to start by saying that the way that an ATS is used is largely dependent on scale. You do things differently if you're recruiting in a company of 200 people than you do in a company of 5,000 people. And you do it differently if you're recruiting for people in call centers where the attrition rate is 75%, and in a white-collar company where the attrition rate is in the low teens, right? So volume matters. Now, the whole point of an ATS is to allow you to look at and evaluate candidates. And not all, but certainly most ATSs include the capacity to score and rank those candidates. And that ability is either widely adjustable or not adjustable at all. And that depends on the vendor. But the moment that you turn ranking and scoring over to an algorithm, who do you think's doing this stuff? The thing that we know for sure about AI is that AI does not handle all cases very well. It handles the stuff that it's been trained to handle, and anything that's an outlier, it screws up. This is why people are dying in Teslas, because because AI doesn't handle outliers. AI does not know what to do with outliers. So if you let's take the most invasive view, and you say, we are going to tell the machine how we want it to rank the employees. Okay, so you give it some ground rules, but over, say, 100 resumes per job, when you get over 100 resumes per job, nobody's looking at the bottom 30 or 40. Nobody. And whether or not those bottom 30 or 40 are actually the bottom 30 or 40 is something that you don't know because you don't look.
Yeah, that's a really good point. When I hear people saying something like, well, we do look at every application that we get, then
they're lying.
Well, if you receive a very small number, right, it's feasible and maybe they do. But I think, we're talking about high volume here. So like, that's kind of the ground rule. If you don't even look at those bottom 30 or 40%, you've got no way of knowing that they actually are. I mean, you think they are, you expect they are, maybe they should be, but are they? So if a candidate, the question that I would have, John, and maybe this is rhetorical, is if I'm an employer and I'm using the screening, ranking, matching software, depending upon what the vendor calls it, isn't the whole point of that so that my recruiters don't look at those bottom candidates? I mean, I don't know what other purpose there is to it.
That's absolutely right, and it's hard sometimes to say that in a way that makes sense from a broader legal perspective, and that's, I think, some of the pushback you get in this stuff is, how could you see that as other than ranking? Well, you could see that as other than ranking if it was your job to evaluate all of those resumes. And I say, no, the machine's doing it, and you go, oh, I'm doing it. I'm responsible. I set the stuff in place. And almost universally, vendors encourage that kind of thinking on the part of their clients because that shifts liability away from the vendor and onto the client. And most contracts and user agreements in this world shield the vendor from liability.
Or attempt to, but we can get there.
So did that get you what you needed?
So far. But we're just digging in, I
thought we were done.
Oh,
we're done.
No, you can go get a latte or something now, because now, like Jeanette and Heather,
you're going to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. I got it.
I'm actually going to be a bad guest and ask a question back.
Ooh, do it.
Because in high volume hiring, we're talking about what industries? Hospitality, retail, call centers, things where many people are going to be qualified.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because the qualification bar is broad. It's broad, and it involves skills that most of us have, the ability to be friendly to people and operate basic machinery. And these are things that most of us do all the time.
Friendly to people and operate machinery. I am not qualified and not qualified.
Well, fair, but but that's why you're not in retail.
Yeah. But Heather, I hear what you're saying, and the question isn't, are most people qualified? The question is, who's getting hired, right, and who's getting screened.
I hadn't gotten there yet.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, Heather, keep going.
Let me go back to my latte.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
So anyway, the idea of screening people in that environment, I mean, what's really going on there? What are you screening for? What are you looking for?
Well, it's interesting. What I've always found in the high volume world for those kind of roles, it's like you're screening for like, hey, can you lift, 50 pounds for 8 hours? It's more like, are you okay working the overnight shift? It's less around, I don't want to say skill because it actually is a skill to be able to lift 50 pounds for 8 hours
Yes, it
straight,
is.
right?
Yes, it
But
is.
it's like it's questions around that where it's like quickly like, hey, are you good? Can you do that? Hey, do you have a driver's license?
Are you
Like,
available? Yeah.
are you available? Like, can you come in tomorrow and just start this stuff? Right? It's less about in some respects skills. I mean, at times there are. It's more around like, hey,
So do
getting
ATSs
everyone in quickly.
screen for that?
Say it again.
Do ATSs screen for the things that actually matter in this environment?
Well, I would say some do and some don't, right?
Okay.
Some are more like tailored to this type of hiring versus others for sure. That's my view. That's what I've seen. Curious, John, like what you're seeing out there as well, but
Well,
that's always been.
yeah. It's a difference between an industry insider's perspective and somebody who's out there using the stuff. It's
Yeah.
true that there are high volume hiring tools,
Yeah.
but it's not true that everybody uses high volume hiring tools to do high volume hiring, because that's a nuance that your local ATS representative, when he's selling you the thing or she's selling you the thing, doesn't bother to mention that, oh, you might find a better thing that's more suited to your purpose. That's not good salesmanship.
Exactly.
So let's dig in if we can before we run out of time. The Workday lawsuit, right?
Yes.
The EEOC has weighed in. My understanding is that they're not a party, but they've provided some recommendations to the court. I think as a fully recovered lawyer, although my wife would disagree with the fully part of it, and Heather as a real lawyer, I think it's an amicus brief, if I understand correctly.
I called it amicus, but I think both pronunciations.
Well, you're in California,
correct.
I'm in Minnesota, so that we'll just say it's that. But no, I'm sure your pronunciation is way more accurate than mine. But in that lawsuit, what I understand is that the plaintiff, the person who's suing,
looking for the inside scoop on payroll? Whether you're a payroll pro or just curious about your paycheck, we've got two podcasts you cannot miss. It's About Payroll delivers the latest trends for payroll pros, and It's About Your Paycheck is here for employees, breaking down pay and rights in simple terms. Two great shows, two great hosts, and endless insights to keep you informed and empowered. Subscribe now and elevate your payroll knowledge. Brought to you by Work Defined, where payroll meets people.
It's a black male applied to 100 jobs with companies that are using the Workday ATS. He was rejected from all of them. Now, that in and of itself doesn't really mean that much. I think we've all been rejected from jobs that we apply to. In John's case, he should have been rejected for more of the jobs that he applied to. But
I got those jobs anyhow because I'm white.
Well, that answers that. But the one of the jobs, or at least one of the jobs that he applied to, it was like 1 a.m, and he received a rejection like an hour later or something, which kind of raises the suspicion that there was not actually a human being there who was looking at his application. It was rejected. I'm kind of sitting there going like, why would it even have taken an hour? But maybe they were trying to be kind by giving him the impression that a human was actually doing it. So he's basically saying, hey, the AI, the algorithm, is looking at my background, inferring that I'm Black, and rejecting me because of that, or ranking me so low that recruiters aren't looking at me. If that's the case, Heather, that seems like that's for sure is going to be discriminatory. But I'm wondering, is that on the employer? Is that on Workday? Is it on both of them? Like for this lawsuit specifically, what are we looking at here?
Well, the employer's always going to be responsible because they're the one who is rejecting the candidate. The software may be actually sorting, making the decision and sending out the email, but it's on behalf of the employer.
And only the employer, or is it possible that Workday is also on the hook here?
We don't know. We don't know. I always thought that this issue would be analyzed under products liability law because software is something that is designed and put into commerce to do particular things. But the way this one is framed is under discrimination in Title VII, and Title VII has very broad definitions of who an employer is and includes agents of an employer. And what the EEOC has said is that the way this lawsuit has been pled and the allegations, theoretically, based on the language of the statute and the way the statute has been interpreted by the courts, fits the definitions of an agent of an employer, or perhaps even an employment agency, which screens candidates on behalf of an employer. And when they discriminate, they're liable under Title VII. And so what the EEOC is saying, our job is to eliminate discrimination and to ensure discrimination and harassment-free workplaces. And we don't, we're not fussy about who or where the discrimination is coming, and we want to eliminate it all. And that is a fair and reasonable position for them to take. Legally, it's weird, because it doesn't quite match agency law. It doesn't quite match reality and how all of this works. But the EEOC is saying, look, if the outcome is discriminatory and all of the action is with the software, then why wouldn't we hold the software companies liable?
And it's so amazing, right? Because for years it's been, in my view, right, like you direct how the software should operate. The software makes recommendations based on what the client says to do. So it's like, here's the specific criteria and whatnot. And then, obviously still, in my view, always want to be checking for, is there a bias? Is there an adverse impact and whatnot? And so this is like, for me, I just think it's so mind blowing, right? Because depending where this case goes, HR tech vendors, we
have no idea if they will ever be liable. We have no idea. We haven't talked about contract defenses, about indemnity, about all of the ways that somebody who's selling something can limit their own liability to the person who's actually using it. And that happens all the time. And there's no evidence, and there won't be, that the way the ATSs are ranking is any more or less discriminatory than humans, because what they're basing it on is data generated by human actions, which are historically and uniformly and ubiquitously discriminatory, because that's human. That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do as humans. And, we have preferences. We say this is better than this. And our culture has a long history of implicit bias. And so the data is always going to be biased, and the outcomes are always going to be biased. And we as humans have to take action to remedy that. And the way you do that is by monitoring your outcomes and addressing them. But we're seeing more action legally requiring that, especially on pay equity. But
so John, we know kind of where we are in this Workday lawsuit. One of the things I thought would be interesting to talk about, maybe like as a last question or thought here, is this the destination? Is this where the EEOC, are they just going to look for examples like this and do no more? Are they kicking the door open and there's going to be a lot different lawsuits? What do you think is coming? Pull out your crystal ball.
Well, so I'm going to try to keep this brief, but it might stretch a little bit. I want to start with something Jeanette said, which Heather,
you look shocked.
Jeanette said, you tell the machine what you want and it gives it to you, and that's not true.
It's true.
You tell the machine what you want, and the machine gives you what it thinks you want.
Yes, I agree with that statement.
Because in today's world, computers have opinions.
Yes.
Computers didn't used to have opinions, but today computers have opinions. And so it's like managing people. You tell somebody to do something and they go away and they come back and they did what you thought you meant.
Exactly. That's
right?
true. That is true.
Right. And so the degree to which our systems are becoming intelligent is like that. They're like bad interns.
You're very specific with exactly what you want to leave no question on what you wanted. And
then even then they don't get it right. Even then they don't get it right. So you get something that's advertised as you tell it what you want it to do and it'll do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do that. How could that be my fault?
Right.
I may have the responsibility for correcting it, but that's not my fault. And that's a change in the way that software works. And the EEOC is acutely aware of this change in the way that things work. And they see that this is where discrimination is getting an uncontrolled foothold. And what they're asking for is dynamic monitoring of performance so that you can prove that you're not discriminating, which is what Heather was saying is possible. Yeah. And this is a shift. This is a generational shift in the relationship between us, our systems, and the regulatory environment. And it's not just the EEOC. The Federal Trade Commission has their fingers in this, because it's a shift in software product liability enforcement that we're about to see. And so if you are a vendor and you make a bunch of claims, you have been shielded.
Yeah.
For 40 years, you have been shielded from the consequences of your claims being bullshit. And that varies across vendors, but really to get into business, you always have to claim that you know what you're talking about, even though you just stayed in a Holiday Inn Express last night. And so there's a change coming, and it's going to come fast.
Yeah.
It's going to come fast, partly because the regulators are not standing still. They're building dynamic tools to measure this stuff. And so what looks like paper reports currently will, in a very short order, become dynamic reporting, so that your hiring performance will be monitored if you're over a certain size and over a certain scale. And if it's the algorithm that's screwing you up, so bottom line is currently we have AI going all over the place, and it is completely impossible to predict the error rate of an AI.
Yeah.
Completely impossible, and very, very little work is being done to solve that particular problem. We're blowing smoke all over the place about AI, but it has uncontrollable error rates. And any other engineered product that has uncontrollable error rates is not on the market. And that kind of discipline is coming to software.
Yeah.
And it's not whether, it's when, and it is nearer rather than later.
Yeah, in the conversations that I've had with other TA tech vendors, almost uniformly, they say it's not our problem, it's the employer's problem.
Of course they do.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like gun manufacturers that way. We can create like this inherently dangerous product, but we're not the ones that ever pull the trigger. Okay. On the other hand, when I talk to employers, it's like, we're licensing this software. The indemnity clause says that the vendor is responsible. And so it's not our problem. It seems to me at the end of the day, if the EEOC wins, they're all liable. And I don't know if vendors and TA people really understand that might be where we're going here or not.
Potentially. I think like something like Heather, you had said at the beginning, or we did this when we were in the green room. This is really ultimately about like, don't discriminate, right? Like it comes from a good place, right? Like that's the key, right? Don't discriminate, do the right thing. But we have this implicit bias, which has gotten into the data. So let's just try and limit, because I don't ever believe you can remove it, but limit it as much as possible. And so I don't know, like we're going to see a lot of crazy changes going on between.
But you can limit it, you can monitor it, and if it gets out of balance, you can correct it.
You can correct it.
Right. And so nobody.
And you can give people safe harbors so that they have time to correct it without liability. You know, do you want to solve the problem or do you want to promote litigation?
Right.
Oh no, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like looking at it in a positive light and what's the best way to move forward versus
just like the software is changing, and just like we have this thing called high volume hiring now that we didn't have 150 years ago. Well, I guess the military did.
Haven't you heard
the laws
of
might need to change too.
Ellis Island, high volume hiring, right there.
Yeah, but that was the 1800s, right? You know, and I was only a teenager then. So we probably need to leave off. Heather, John, this has been awesome. Jeanette,
thank you.
Just another one. So yeah, thank you guys very much. Thank you also to our friends at Ibidu, the sponsor of the podcast. They help make this possible. If people don't like it, I guess we should blame them. Certainly not any of us, right?
One last thing. Heather has written a book called Get Paid Right.
Oh, yes. Okay, wait, check it out.
Hold that up.
Woo! We all have this there. It's great.
Heather's copy is backwards, apparently. But you can order this book on Amazon.
Okay.
Get Paid Right.
Get Pay Right. Okay.
SHRM is a kind and wonderful book about pay equity, which is adjacent to this conversation. And it is a SHRM book. You get extra points in heaven for reading it.
Thank you.
Well then, for sure, I'm going to read it. We will definitely put that into, as they say, the show notes, and with the link to Amazon. And then, you know, if we sell enough copies, and Heather and John can go on a lovely cruise to Alaska. Oh, you already
We'll be visiting Minneapolis and St. Paul to stay at your house.
Sweet. January is a lovely time of the year in Minnesota. Well, thank you so much. This was fantastic. Have a fantastic weekend, and we should circle back a year from now and see where all this shakes out.
Please, let's see 6 months from now even.
Yeah,
right?
Sooner would be fun.
Sooner the better. Awesome. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.